Welcome back, everyone. We have gathered here on the occasion of World Environment Day for a webinar and competitions on There is No Planet B, an ecosystem restoration initiative and eco-friendly initiative taken up by Sir Vitaldas Thakase College of Home Science Autonomous in collaboration with Ra Foundation. We have an excellent panel of speakers who are using this platform to spread awareness towards environmental degradation and unite young minds for finding solutions to heal the deep wounds that we have caused to nature. It is now time to take a note to right the wrongs that we have done. Moving forward in the continued quest to cover more solutions focused topics relating to environment today, I would like to throw some light on the importance of knowing the way nature works when left alone. Rewilding is the journey to that holy grail. It is the process of restoring land so that natural processes can dominate. To elaborate more on today's topic, rewilding as a method of ecosystem restoration, we have with us Dr. Sarika Kulkarni, the founder and director of Ra Foundation, who has pursued her master's in CSR from AIT Institute, Bangalore. She has also specialized in social impact strategy from the University of Pennsylvania. I would now like to invite Sarika ma'am to take this event forward.
Thank you so much for inviting me, and this is such a pleasure to come here and talk about what work we have done so far, our efforts on rewilding, and what kind of impact we have been able to see in a very short span of time. Because I think talking about impact is very important because that's so positive, and that kind of motivates us to do more and do better and go that inch deeper and an inch wider. So I'm going to primarily talk about a little bit of about what we have done on this in this area, in this field, but focusing more on the theme of the World Environment Day, which is rewilding and restoring and things like that. I want to start with this story. This is a story of Dhavru Bangad. Now, Dhavru Bangad is a very poor tribal who lives in Dhonpada village of Jawhar Taluka in Palghar district. He's 65 years old, and this next to it is his wife, who's Chanda. Chanda Bangad's Aadhaar card says that she's 60 years old, but nobody knows her age. Even Dhavru's age is from Aadhaar card, but he thinks it's correct. So clearly they are completely illiterate. They are from Warli tribe and live along the northern part of the Western Ghats in Maharashtra. They have seen climate change destroy their life completely. Destroy livelihoods, destroy life, destroy everything. And this picture says it all. You can see the desperate expressions that both Dabru and Chanda have when they are looking at. You can see barren land behind. You can see empty water bodies. You can see water scarcity staring at Chanda, at Dabru Bangad. And we work primarily, our work is for millions of such Dabru Bangads, who have faced the brunt of climate change, and who have actually seen and experienced climate change completely destroy their life, and they were very helpless about it because they didn't know what was happening and why it was happening. So we are the voice of those illiterate communities, of those desperate poor communities who have been completely badly impacted by climate change. That life of tribal communities are linked with forest. Their lives actually rest on three pillars, which is Jal, Jungle and Jameen. Because of climate change, they were oscillating between too much Jal and too little Jal, which made their jungles completely vanish. Their Zameen have become completely barren, and making them and all of this is making them stare at a super bleak future. When we started working in the tribal areas, what we saw was, as I mentioned, that barren land, severe water scarcities, communities constantly having to cope up with floods, storms, extreme heat, frequent pest infestations, and lives that had extremely uncertain economic and social future. Driven by the plight, we were fueled by our desire to change all of that. And we were also, of course, conscious of the fact that a lot of damage cannot be undone. We started looking at different ways of reducing and limiting the effects of climate change. And rewilding clearly emerged as one of the best and most sustainable ways of restoring our earth. But as you know that water and trees share a symbiotic relationship, and we first had to actually implement projects that made these villages water positive and people water secure. You can see in this picture again Dhavru Bangad standing next to a restored water structure, which we restored about 2 years ago in 2019. and it continues to have a lot of water. And of course, this picture was taken immediately. Now, whenever the recent picture actually has a lot of shrubs, a lot of trees near the water structure, and a lot of changes are visible, which I'm, hopefully this monsoon I'm planning to go. We have not been able to visit due to COVID. So that's why my picture is not, very recent. But anyway, so rewilding was a very, very important area that we started working in. But as I mentioned, that first thing we had to do was work on water, create water secure communities. Over last 7 years, we have constructed 45 dams and created about 50 crore liters per day of water storage capacity, 125 wells, creating 40 lakh liters of water, storage capacity. And this much water is available, throughout the year. Water has become available, and water has become, the communities have become water positive, water secure. And once this, we started taking small baby steps in the direction of making communities water secure, we embarked on our ambitious projects of rewilding. Now, what were the challenges that we were facing? The problems were that people would cut trees. People didn't understand the importance. So a lot of effort went in educating the people about importance of having trees. And in the initial phases, we actually worked on agroforestry. Why agroforestry? Because when the trees give money, or trees have an economic benefit, people usually take care of trees. They don't cut those trees, and we thought, let's, in the first phase, we just focused on agroforestry and bushes which give money, because that was very, very important to give that economic angle to rewilding. And although this is not technically rewilding, because rewilding also means a lot of indigenous plants, which we of course simultaneously worked on. But in the first phase, it was very important, because what happens is a demonstration effect really works best. Now what has happened is community is mentally prepared for a rewilding project, because they have understood what trees can do to them. And I'll talk a little bit more about how rewilding has impacted our communities and stuff like that. What we have done in the past 7 years is we have planted over 150,000 different types of trees, plants, shrubs. I would say about 80%, 80 to 85% are economic trees as in agroforestry, and bushes which give them income. But the rest are also indigenous variety. Now, indigenous variety are the key or the critical part of the rewilding project, because it's very, very important to, plant the indigenous. Now, what is indigenous variety? They are, what used to be before these were cut, the trees that used to be there before they were cut. So they are the indigenous variety. So we are working a lot on covering our barren lands with indigenous varieties of trees. Now, as I mentioned, that this was the first phase. Now we are beginning, as we speak, we are beginning the second phase of our work. Now, in the second phase, what we have done is we have adopted this 10 acres of land, which is a barren plot, a completely barren plot. As you can see in the map, that this plot is, this was full of trees. It was full of trees a couple of years ago, but slowly people started cutting. You can also see the hamlet nearby, because here you can see the hamlet, and then people started cutting it either for agriculture or to use as firewood in their chulhas, and they started cutting it slowly, steadily. Now it has become a barren plot of land, only surrounded by a few trees here and there. We have taken over this 10 acre of plot for a rewilding project, where we'll be planting 5,000 trees, different types of grass, herbs. Now, grass and herbs are also very, very important, and they play a big role in restoring and rewilding. So they become very, very important part of any project on rewilding. So this is now underway, and we will, we are just kind of surrounded. We have compounded the entire 10 acre area. In the first phase, of course, as I mentioned, that the entry to rewilding is through water. So we have just constructed this well, which will give water drinking water to not only the nearby hamlets, but importantly also help us in the in planting the trees, because the first 2-3 years are very, very critical, and we need to plant, we need to water them regularly. And again, how much water to give. So all that, there's a lot of science behind that. So we are going to do this very, very scientifically. And about 2-3 years, once the trees are well entrenched in the soil and they start growing, then their water requirement also goes down. See how amazing and beautiful nature is. I mean, you just kind of nurture it for 2 to 3 years, and after that, it continues to nurture you throughout your life and more, even for your next generation. So, so this is what we are doing here. And so far, the impact of our work has been absolutely brilliant. I mean, we have improved green cover, improved water table drastically, decreased soil erosion. Now, again, as you know, that trees and soil have a direct symbiotic relationship. Once again, what happens is that when you plant the tree, they actually tighten the soil around them, which is then is not very vulnerable to rains, because what happens is when rain falls, if there are no trees, they fall directly on the land. And when the water flows, it flows with the soil, and all the topsoil, which is very fertile, which is very good, flows with the water. And where does this soil goes? It will go and deposit itself in the nearby water bodies, not only polluting the water bodies but decreasing their capacity to hold water, rainwater, drastically. So now what has happened, because of our trees, such 150,000 trees, the canopy of the tree, the water rain, when rain falls, it falls on the canopy of the tree, and it slows its speed. So the speed at which the water actually falls on the ground drastically reduces because of the tree cover, because of the stems, leaves, and things like that. As a result, by the time it actually falls on the ground, its ferocity is gone. And then the soil is also very, very tight around the roots. As a result, the soil erosion completely stops. It decreases. I won't call it completely stopping, but it decreases and reduces big time drastically, which again helps in which is again a part of entire rewilding process. When you say what are the impact of rewilding, one of it is of course reduce soil erosion. There's a definitely cleaner air, improved carbon sequestering and storage, because as we know that trees absorb carbon and produce oxygen, give us oxygen in return. So definitely there is a cleaner air, improved livelihood opportunities through agroforestry. In fact, more than 1,200 people have completely stopped migrating. They are just leading their life very happily. Davru Bangad himself has planted about 400 shrubs of mogra and about 200 tall trees which are giving him cashew, mango, and other important economic generating fruits. And he's leading a very happy life now in his own village. And this is just over a period of couple of years. Mitigate climate change, while you cannot actually contribute to changing climate, completely mitigating climate change, but in our own zone, in our own area, I think we have been fairly successful in mitigating climate change to a large extent. Although, I'm probably, there's lots more to do. This is a very small time frame and a very small area that we are working in, but we have already started seeing the results. And I think this is what motivates us. And I wanted to tell you this story because rewilding is the way for restoration. And you know what the best part about rewilding is, it actually return of flora, fauna, and beginning of biodiversity restoration. I was told that a lot of butterflies which used to be there in the area have come back. A lot of birds which the tribal communities had not seen for last 10, 15 years have actually started making an appearance. It's a very, very small way this has happened. But yes, you can see that. I don't know from where these butterflies have suddenly come, but that's nature. Nature has its own way of responding to your efforts of nurturing nature. This is so amazing. And rewilding is all about nurturing nature. It's all about creating nature. It's all about creating that, putting in those efforts to give nature a second chance. We have actually last so many years completely destroyed everything around us. We are probably the only species around who's on a self-destruction mode. We have to stop there. And there's a lot which organizations like ours or people like you can do. What can you do? I mean, sorry, there's a spelling mistake. It's rewild your own garden, balcony with native wildflowers. I can promise you that you can see butterflies on your balcony also, if you do it the correct way, of course. Learn everything about climate change. There's a lot of myths around climate change. There are lots of myths around climate change mitigation. People are writing all sorts of things. But please go to the correct resources, read the correct information about climate change, and make yourself completely aware. Because and I also, whenever I'm addressing students, especially on climate change, I always apologize, because I think my generation and generation before me has created a huge damage. And honestly, we are really sorry for what we have done. And you people have a big role to play, and you can do a lot in your own smaller way, larger way. support organizations that work on restoring climate, that work on rewilding, because we keep on needing a lot of volunteers. We need university participation, we need corporate participation, because this is something that what we have embarked on is not something that we can do on our own, in isolation alone. We need your support for everything. So volunteer for organizations like ours, or for with other organizations who are working on similar projects, and there's a lot together we can do. And all the best for your climate change journeys. I'm sure all of you are going to be climate change mitigation warriors going forward, and we are there to get you the right information, get you the right support, and all the best. Happy to take any questions.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing your work and insight on this crucial topic with us. It was truly inspiring. And we will now accept questions that you all might have for ma'am. Just put them in the chat box and ma'am can answer them for you.
Kosha, I think we have a question in the question and answers.
Okay, yeah.
There's a question for you, ma'am. There's a participant who's asked you that did the organization face any problems in acceptance? They might not have liked an outsider telling them what to do and what not to do.
Exactly. Absolutely. I think it's a very, very good question. So that's why we started with agroforestry, because what happens is that when you are one of the best ways of winning trust is through giving them economic empowerment. And what happened was, if we had gone to them and told them that we are here to plant trees, or we are here to rewild your barren lands, nobody would have listened to us. But when we went and told them that we are here to give you an income opportunity through trees and through the shrubs that we want you to plant, they listened to us. They were poor, right? They were very, very poor people. So they stood up, listened to us, heard us out, participated in our program, took care of their trees, and heard everything that we wanted to tell them. And that's exactly why we chose agroforestry as phase one. Now we have enough trust, and now they know that whatever we do will be for their good, their betterment, good for the nature, good for climate change mitigation strategy. Now we can do whatever we want to do, and of course we are not going to do whatever we are going to do, a lot of rewilding scientifically. But yes, good question.
Sarika, first of all, congratulations. I think it was a brilliant presentation, very, very inspiring. What I wish to add to the conversation which you started is that Sir Vittal Das Thakursi College of Home Science has adopted Chinchini village in Palghar district, and we've been working with that village for the last 5 years. So it has been a success story that we worked with that village, and we found the community very receptive. So our endeavor is also to take a step forward and reach out to other communities in the same district. So I think it will be very nice if like you've already broken the ice, and you've kind of got the confidence of the community. So what are the ways, because our institution is very unique, because it comes in with manifold expertise. So be it nutrition, be it human development, be it textile sustainability, be it using best out of waste, or upscaling coming from resource management or mass communication. So every department has something to offer for the betterment of the community. So I think some thoughts in those lines, and some conversations on those lines. And of course, uh, uh, I mean, during pandemic, maybe we could do the planning part, and the implementation can happen when we are out of this pandemic. Armighty or any of the heads of the department, would you like to add to what I said?
Absolutely, ma'am. There's a lot we can do, because it's so important to have, us to together we can do a lot. I mean, as an organization, we have our own limitations. So it's very important that all like-minded, similar purpose people and organizations come together, because there's so much to do. I mean, the damage we have done is so huge. But so, there's only so much we can do, and there's only so much you can do. So it's very important that we work together and create that bigger and larger impact. We are absolutely open to discussion, and let's take this conversation forward.
Yeah.
See, what I wanted to show in my presentation was simple, that, a well-intentioned, if you have the intentions, you can get there. You can do a lot. And the fact that there are like 244 people on this webinar, clearly there is no dearth of any intentions. There are lots of good intentions. There are lots of people who want to do it, and let's work together, because now we also have a model which can be replicated and scaled up big time. So let's work together. I'll be very happy to get on a call anytime as per your convenience. It will be a pleasure, and let's work together.
Yeah,
And
sure.
so just parting statement was just this, that in 7 years, we have 6 to 7 years of work. We have been there, done that, done so much. I think you guys, and just come forward and start contributing your bit to rewilding, restoration. There's a lot.
And I think what matters is the total well-being of the population, right? So that's where I'm coming from, that
Yes.
there could be a need assessment, and we could
Yes.
intervene where they want our intervention, and maybe 2 years down the line you can see a change in the quality of life of people.
Absolutely,
So a
absolutely.
lot of things.
Another thing that we had done, was, because it was, the area has huge water scarcity, so there was not even drinking water, and women had to walk for few hours every day to fetch water. So we created this water usage pyramid, and that on the top was drinking water. So whenever we would build a well, although our ultimate intention was to use the well water or borewell water or check dam water for rewilding, we always had rewilding in our mind.
Yeah.
But we again clearly knew that we cannot, drinking water was the most critical need. So so what we did was, we told the community that you use this water for drinking, and we will observe for 1 year. If at the end of, if the next summer there is enough water left, we want to use it for rewilding. So again, that brought in a lot of community buy-in. And so as you rightly said, ma'am, that we have to respect the community, their needs, and the approach has to be very bottom up.
Okay, so lovely hearing
Thank you
you,
so much.
Sadhika, and thank you so much for giving your time. And I think we move ahead. Yeah. Yes, Kosha, over to you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.